Good evening, Olly. So Boris Johnson firing on all cylinders. What were the main pillars of this Build Back Better campaign?
He was firing on all cylinders, and I think that is worth remarking on for two reasons. One is that this was not the normal party conference speech. Of course, it was delivered remotely. There was no crowd in the room. He referenced on several occasions not having those applause lines or laughter lines to be able to look for like he normally would at a party conference speech in front of the party faithful. Also because Boris Johnson's been questioned, perhaps accused at times since he was himself ill with coronavirus, of having lost his mojo. He said today that that was not the case, but he also definitely wanted to appear like a man who has not lost his mojo. So he was pretty energetic. He was certainly looking for jokes at times, but also trying to make a serious point too, that given the coronavirus pandemic and given what he called Britain's underlying problems in its economy, he does want to, as you say, build back better, according to the government slogan. And that means a so-called levelling up campaign, spending money on infrastructure projects in parts of the country away from London and the southeast. But particularly today, he was outlining a lot of measures to do with wind power, saying the UK can be the world leader in this area in offshore wind, saying that Britain can become the Saudi Arabia of wind. And so what he was trying to do as well was look to a future, a post-coronavirus future for the United Kingdom, a greener future, one that he promised in his manifesto that got him elected around the turn of the year, but one which he says is much more urgent now, given the effects that the coronavirus pandemic has had on the economy.
It was quite interesting what he said about making the right choices for the economy and saying that it was crucial to make the right choices. And that resonated with me because, of course, here in South Africa, we're also facing a series of quite difficult choices. He was at pains to say that the private sector was so crucial, so important, and that it was really hard for a Conservative government to have given out all the kind of government support they've had to do, because that goes against the grain. We're just wondering how that's gone down, his plan and his messaging.
Well, that's gone down very well indeed with his party faithful, those Conservative voters, traditional Conservative voters, who understand that the government has really had to step in a major way to keep the economy afloat and support as many workers and employees as possible, but are uncomfortable about the idea that this could continue any longer than it needs to. And so for many Conservatives, that was a part of the speech that they've reacted very well to. Of course, the opposition Labour Party is saying, look, what's happened here is a complete recalibration of British politics. This has shown that there should be more intervention from the state in the economy, and that many of the things that the government is doing now, higher levels of spending, should be continued afterwards. So I think that also sets the tone for some of the political debate we're going to see here in the UK once the coronavirus pandemic starts to subside.
And I'm wondering how the British public have responded, you know, those statements he made about green power, the wind power focus, and also being very upfront about the fact that he was too fat and he needed to lose weight, and that's why he got sick from COVID-19. And I just have to ask you the obvious question: does the British public, do they think it was wind power or simply hot air?
Well, that joke has been made, believe me, on social media and by sections of the British public today, questioning exactly that. Many will be sympathetic with the idea that this government's faced huge challenges. Others will be wondering why there wasn't a bit more about coronavirus and the strategy to fight it in this speech. Certainly Boris Johnson wanted to look to the future, and many voters are keen to hear that. You know, this is a government that's had a really tough few months. Many would say partly as a result of its own missteps and mistakes. But Boris Johnson has been warning his own MPs privately that it could potentially get even tougher as we head through the British winter, and cases and potentially hospital admissions and deaths keep on rising. So this is a man that knows there are real difficulties ahead, and was trying to appeal to the British people to stand firm, to get through this phase and look to brighter futures ahead. You know, whether that will have resonated with the British public very much remains to be seen. But as I say, this is a Prime Minister who did seem a bit more like the Prime Minister we saw in the election campaign that did deliver him a huge majority in the House of Commons. So perhaps the voters will have responded well to that. Perhaps many have already lost patience with this man and this government.
Thank you very much. Olly Barrat coming to us live from London.